Okay, on that note, I think we'll begin. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all here and thank you all for coming today. Again, my name is Bruce Gagnon. I'm the state coordinator of the Florida Coalition for Peace and Justice. We're going to make each a short 3-minute statement, and then we will be open for your questions. But please hold them until we've each made our short statements.
My name is Dr. Jan Kirsch. I'm an oncologist. I treat cancer and leukemia. Currently, I'm doing research trying to prevent cancer. Projects like Cassini make that battle to prevent cancer a very uphill battle indeed. The fact that a risk of dispersion of plutonium over billions of people, a sort of malignant roulette, a lethal kind of lottery is being undertaken, I find unconscionable. I want to put to rest certain ideas that have been promulgated about the toxicity of plutonium, which is thought to be, oh, well, paper will stop it, it can't hurt you, you can probably eat it in sandwiches. And there's some very basic things I'd like to talk to you about. Plutonium is a radioactive element that is man-made, at least on this planet. I think in supernovas it may be still being created, but God has stopped making it here. She does in maybe outer space. To an oncologist, to paraphrase Shakespeare, plutonium is the stuff that nightmares are made of. Numerous studies of plutonium and similar radionuclides have shown that it is highly carcinogenic in animals and in man. In studies in beagle dogs, just a handful of micrograms, a few millionths of a gram, when deposited in their respiratory tract, caused nearly all the dogs to get cancer. It is very important that such tiny particles, if an accident occurs, an explosion, a burning of plutonium, could subject millions, possibly billions of people on this planet to the same kind of tragedy. A little bit about the biology. Once inhaled, plutonium particles will adhere, will dwell in the lung and the pulmonary lymph nodes, the lymph glands that drain the lung, and they'll stay there for a long, long time. They can be translocated by the blood, removed by the blood to the surface of the bone called the periosteum, where they can cause other problems we'll get to. But while they stay there in the lung and the lung surface, they stay there and constantly bombard that tissue with highly carcinogenic alpha particles. Let me talk about that 1 millirem a little bit. That's a thousandth of a rem. Studies have shown that if you take one alpha particle, that means one plutonium emitting one of its breakdown products, and you shoot that through one nucleus of a cell, you give that cell 100 rads. Not a thousandth of one, but 100. Now, the kind of plutonium that you are likely to inhale after an accident would involve thousands of such atoms, many thousands, and you are likely to get many thousands of rads to that sensitive lung tissue, a very adequate amount to cause cancer. 5 years later, 10 years later, 30 years later, even in people who are healthy and never smoked, even in children. Now, some of the plutonium, to be complete, will be translocated, taken by the blood. A little tiny bit will be removed by the kidneys, but most of it will stay with you for life. Plutonium, like a diamond, is forever. But it's really, unlike a diamond, not anyone's best friend. It can get translocated to the surface of the bone, where it can cause a rare disease called osteogenic sarcoma. Recent data shows it can also be translocated or taken to breast, to the testis, to the liver, where it can increase the rate of cancer in those organs. And as I said, these are millionths of a gram quantities. Now, here is where plutonium is unlike any other carcinogen that we can think of. In general, when you think of something that causes cancer, you assume you have to have multiple exposures before you get cancer. And in general, that truism tends to be true. But think of cigarettes. If you smoke one, you're probably not going to get cancer, even a pack. I'm not encouraging this, but that's the truth. One encounter, however, with plutonium is not one exposure. It stays there, bombarding the sensitive tissue with those particles I just spoke with you about, year after year. The radioactive half-life, after which only half of it's gone, is 88 years. So it's continuously causing multiple exposures throughout your life, even though you may have never known you contacted it, never known that you inhaled it. So this is a case where one exposure can lead to cancer, one time. And this is something that's very important to remember, that one individual with one exposure can get cancer. It's not a millirem. It is, when the exposure occurs, continuous. As a physician who at times utilizes radiation to diagnose, to treat cancer, I have a great deal of respect for radiology, for nuclear medicine, and use it. On the other hand, what I'm asking for here today is just informed consent. That is, when medicine is practiced well, and I mean, even despite managed care, that does happen occasionally. It really does happen. When medicine is practiced well, we adhere to something called informed consent. You don't do something to a patient without telling him about it. I can't go randomly through a mall to do a study and do barium enemas on people, besides being rude. It doesn't invoke informed consent. And that's all we're asking for here. There is a societal version of informed consent, and it is called democracy. And that's what we want. To loft a highly carcinogenic substance into the air over an entire population is an abrogation of that ideal of democracy and informed consent. And it's ironic that a country that really does seem to aspire to be the greatest of democracies would subject its people and the world's people to irradiation without representation. Democracy prevents cancer. Thank you.